not covered Buffalo for very long. I think that his better days are behind him, and I think that if the Browns want to get a veteran presence in to help mentor these young guys, Fred Jackson's the guy to do it, and Ray Rice isn't.
Yeah, I want no part of Ray Rice, and it's not just because he's a reprehensible human being off the field. It's because look at the comparisons, Matt. When you see Adrian Peterson, who did something equally dastardly to a child, the reason that Minnesota is more welcoming of him back and forgiving is because he's still a damn good running back. Is because he still took the year off and can be one of the best in the league. Ray Rice, his last season played was clearly on the decline. He is 28 years old, and I don't think he has any. I would rather chance, just from a football perspective, chance on a Fred Jackson who's older because he has shown more recently. So I don't want Ray Rice. And outside of Fred Jackson, I guess you have Sean Drone, but he's kind of banged up because wasn't he being sort of looked at as that supposed to be that veteran kind of safety net?
Yeah, he was, but I don't know how much of a safety net he can be when he's struggled to stay on the field too. So
yeah,
there's a whole. I mean, arguably training camp could not have worked out worse for Mike Pettin and the offense. If you're John DeFilippo, you're looking, going, man, what did I get myself into? This is a mess. This offense is devoid of playmakers. We have nobody that's really shown at the running back position that they're ready to take the job. And my quarterback's on the downside of 35. My backup is having issues staying healthy and maybe have some long-term elbow issues. You know, there's a whole lot of questions surrounding this offense, and from a running back standpoint, you just cannot continue to take more chances. You can't take a chance on a Ray Rice. You have to go and rely on a Fred Jackson who, for all accounts that I know of, has been a pretty good locker room guy in Buffalo.
Great
hasn't
citizen.
caused too much trouble. So I think that's where you have to make your hay. You have to go with an older back and say, okay, he may get less yards, but he'll be less of a headache, less of a distraction. I mean, if Jimmy Haslam, really made the decision to bring in Johnny Manziel and demanded that they draft him, he's all about the headaches. God bless him. But, I think Mike Pettin would just as much go out there and try to win football games.
Yeah, I think with Johnny, you don't need the negative attention that a Ray Rice would bring to you at that time. Absolutely not. Now, there is a plus side. We're negative, but there is a plus that has come out of this weekend, and that is the Browns won their third preseason game. Yes, they won, and that's really that kind of lackluster applause, Matt. That's kind of what you get for a third preseason game win. It's the closest thing to a real game. They put the boots to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who Jameis Winston looks every bit the project that people feared, and the Browns scored 2 long touchdown drives on offense of over 70 yards. So that's good, right?
It is. I would be a lot more confident if it was against a different team. If it was against the Saints or somebody that's established, I would be, raising the flag and marching at the front of the parade to help say, hey, this team might be better than I thought. It's against a Bucs team that's rebuilding around a new quarterback with guys that couldn't make the Browns roster 2 years ago as starting offensive linemen now. If you look at all the scenarios around the Bucs, I wasn't excited, and I kind of felt like people would. Yeah, I know. Go ahead and boo me if you want, but I kind of felt like people would go out there and they would trumpet the virtues of Josh McCown and say, "Hey, this team isn't as bad as we thought," but I temper expectations till I see it in the regular season. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer or anything like that. I'm just trying to say, hey, let's see this team play a meaningful football game against a good team and see them do the exact same thing. And then, like I said, I'll join the front of the parade. I'll lead the pack.
Well, and there were still 3 consecutive 3-and-outs to keep in mind. And as you said, the Tampa Bay Bucs, they stink. But what was also concerning, we can get back to negative. That was our brief positive. Duke Johnson, injured. Back his first game action, got a concussion, as did Pierre Desir. Players falling on both sides. But for Duke Johnson, that really brought up why for a Twitter question, it was an answer of, do they need a Fred Jackson in or a Ray Rice or somebody else? Because Duke Johnson out again, concussions. You don't know. He could be back for the fourth. He could be back week 1. He could be gone for a couple months. You just have no idea with concussions. And, Matt, I'm starting to get the eerie, and I hope I'm wrong, but comparison to Montario Hardesty for the Browns, a guy who had a lot of potential, a lot expected out of him, but just could not get on the field.
Yeah, that's a great comparison, and my heart really does still go out to Montario. One of the truly nicest kids I've ever met doing this job, just a really nice kid. Had arguably one of the best stories, personal stories of why he did charity work. I won't get into it now, but just a nice, genuinely nice kid, and you hated to see him go down. He had no business playing in that 4th preseason game when he did get injured and blew out his ACL, and that's something that Mangini has to live with on his conscience as a football coach. It was not a good move to put an unprepared player out there, and now you look at it, and fast forward 5 years, the Browns tried to put a kid out there that had limited work in practice, and what happens? He goes out and he gets dinged. It's not a good look. It's not a good feeling. It doesn't make anybody feel good about Duke Johnson's career, and you hope he hasn't had too many of these in the past. It's all cumulative damage, and the more you get concussion-wise, the more and more time it takes to respond positively to them. So you hope that the good thing is that he can respond quickly and be back on the field. You won't see him Thursday night, and if you do, it's completely irresponsible by the coaching staff to try and get an eval on this kid right now. You either know what you got, you hope you know what you got, or you move on. And that's a bad situation right now for the running backs, and they're going to have to do something. They're going to have to keep 4 backs because all 4 of them have shown dings on their file in the last year, or in the last 3 weeks rather. So that it's all got to be worked out, but they have to go 4 deep at running back. There's just no question.
Well, you talk about irresponsible, and Josh McCown comes to mind. Mike Benton was open about chastising him. He took 3 huge hits against his old team, and Penn said that's one of the reasons he's not playing him against Chicago, because that's another one of his old teams for the 4th preseason games. I have 2 thoughts on this, Matt. One, Josh McCown, every time he got clocked, I'm thinking, what are you doing? Do you not realize the next option is Thaddeus Lewis, and then a guy who was assisting and volunteering at a high school after that? The second part of me says this may be why he did it. That showed, in a roundabout way, while stupid taking the punishment, leadership. It showed, I think, to the offense, hey, guys, I'm here to play. I'm not just here to collect a paycheck. I'm not going to Dwayne Bowe this, half-ass it, and go 0 for 3 on my targets. I'm here to win. I'm here to lead you. So from that standpoint, from a locker room standpoint, I think maybe he showed some guts and maybe some motivation, some inspiration to the locker room. But from a football standpoint where you actually need him on the field, not smart.
Yeah, I see both sides of that argument, and both sides are very valid in my opinion. I applaud him for showing the moxie and standing in there and taking the hits. I'd caution him that it is just a preseason game, and I don't care how badly he wanted to beat Tampa Bay. It's still a preseason game.
Do it in a game that counts.
I'm a little concerned about that. If you do it against the Steelers, you do it against the Ravens, the playoff berth on the line, you get all the props in the world. But if you get dinged in preseason game number 3 and it ruins your entire season, was it really worth it? That's where I come out on it. Is you have to be smart. You have to be knowing the situation, understanding it, and not trying to just go out there and prove a point, because you prove a point by winning on Sundays, not on a Saturday night in August. Nobody cares about that. They just want to see improved play and move on. No injuries. No more injuries at the quarterback spot. This team can ill afford to take another injury at the quarterback spot. If you go in with Josh McCown getting dinged up to the regular season, you have Thaddeus Lewis and Pat Devlin as your 2 options at quarterback, and it might be the most miserable offense that we've seen since 2009. It might be really that bad. So Josh McCown has to step up and be that leader and say, okay, I'm not going to take this hit, but I am going to do what I can to lead this team. And he did, but he's still got to watch those dings because they're all cumulative and they do start to add up. I know he's a healthy 36 and hasn't played all that much, but
let's keep him that way.
Your body is still 36 years old. doesn't respond the way a 22-year-old does.
No, not at all. So the Browns 31-7 winners over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the fourth and most meaningless of the preseason games against the Chicago Bears Thursday in Chicago at 8 o'clock, and really the Browns just want to get out of that one as healthy as possible, then the regular season. But, Matt, we got a couple minutes left here. Let's get to our tweets from the week here. Our Twitter question, with Fred Jackson being released from the Buffalo Bills, with Duke Johnson and the concussion, should the Browns look to sign another veteran running back? And if so, who? Fred Jackson, Ray Rice, or somebody else? Our Twitter handles to get your responses to at AndyMC81, at MattFlorjancic, email thedoghouseshow@gmail.com. So time for the bark-off. And we go to Twitter, at 35start, says, they should pounce on Jackson, but I bet they won't watch Belichick take him. And then from at K.A. Colvin 60 on Twitter says, a Fred Jackson vet to teach Crow and West need to develop what we have.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Both of those are very valid points. You have to teach the guy. It's not just about the coaches teaching them. The players have to teach each other too. And a guy like Fred Jackson is going to be willing to do that. Ray Rice, I don't see it. I see him being the selfish type that wants to go out and just prove that, he sat for a year and, he's ready to take on the world, take on all comers, regardless if it's on the field or off the field. And, I just don't see him being the same type of mentor that you're going to need, and I think Fred Jackson's your guy.
And Simon on email from Cincinnati says, he emailed the doghouseshow@gmail.com. He was the only one for Ray Rice. He's like, take Rice, a winner in the division. You know what? I just think that is too torn up in the division, in the locker room. People who are not going to obviously agree what he did, and too much of a lightning rod. So thank you so much for the tweets there. Matt, another show in the books. We'll do it again Friday. Talk about, hopefully, no more injuries after that fourth preseason game. And, of course, go over who else was cut.
Yeah, I like the sound of no more injuries, I'll tell you that.
Oh, please.
That's the key part right now. That's the worst game of the year for coaches is that fourth preseason game because they're just trying to get in, get out, and get done.
And then the regular season is here. Cannot wait. All right, buddy, good show. We'll do it again Friday.
Sounds good, Andy. Take care, man.
That is Matt Florjancic. I'm Andy McNamara. You've been listening to the Dawg House, Cleveland Browns Insider Podcast.